You sticking around for the class?
I am.
Very good. Here you go. I don't know.
Thank you.
All right, shall we get started? Oh, what am I aiming at with this?
Anything, just 1 meter. Here you go.
Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Andy Stevens, and I love open houses. When I think of some of the things that people around here making cold calls or standing at a street, talk to them about buying or selling a house. When you do an open house, people come to you who are interested in real estate. And sometimes I do an open house, and I go home and I think, gee, I had to work on a Saturday or Sunday. I could have been out hiking or kayaking. But what do? I hung around in a beautiful house and met new people. There are a lot worse ways to spend an afternoon, right? So I think you all know my nickname is $1 Million Man. What you may not know is that I've gotten a lot of those deals through open houses, including my biggest deal, which was a $2.3 million purchase, and my fastest deal, which just happened, where I met the people at an open house on Sunday, and I had them under contract on a $900,000 house on Friday. That was 5 days from meeting to under contract. So in fact, I'm going to suggest to Sheila that we make that a new contest, who got the fastest deal. I think a lot of you know that I'm a lawyer. You probably don't know, or maybe you do. I blame my father. My father was a contractor. Stupid home theater system you bought with the 6 remote controls, which nobody can figure out. But when I was about 5 or 6, my dad got me a Handy Andy toolkit. That's really what it was called, Handy Andy. It had real tools, just kid-sized. And this, if I can get it out of my pocket, this is the hammer from that set. I still have it. This has a lot of sentimental value to me. So I helped somebody buy a fixer-upper recently, and I was part of the demolition crew that showed up to help them rip out the old kitchen and bathroom. So we all showed up with sledgehammers and pry bars, all these weapons of mass destruction, and I pull this out. I say, this is for the heavy work. So I mentioned that just to give you a little idea of my background. Now, the other thing some of you may know, I like better than everyone else. I said, no, it never occurred to me. Say best realtor. It just says better, meaning better than average. And I think everybody in this room already is or can be better than average. Is there anyone here whose goal is to be an average agent? Raise your hand. If you want to be an average agent, get up now, go tell Sheila you're leaving, and go work the salary. If you want to be a better realtor. Okay, so some of the stuff we talk about will strike some of you as incredible. The architect? No? Mies van der Rohe. He did a lot of office buildings, very stark, modern buildings. He said, God is in the details. God is in the details. Details matter. I mean, what is a big picture but a lot of little details? Has anybody ever gone to an art museum with an artist? No? It takes forever. I had a cousin who was an artist, went to the National Gallery of Art once with her and her husband. It took forever. Most of us, we see a painting we like, we literally look at the big picture. Like, oh, that's nice, he captured the light, it's a pretty scene. You look at it for 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes tops. With my cousin, it seemed like it was 40 minutes in front of each painting. She'd get close to make the guards nervous because she knew all the details. And did you notice he has a full-size baseball field there, and he has tried to duplicate Camden Yards as much as possible, down to the little details. Tiger Woods has a 3-hole golf course in his backyard in Palm Beach that duplicates the conditions down to all the little details of the courses he plays on. These guys have mastered the details. They know the difference between moving your shoulder this way and this way at the beginning of the swing, whether it's a golf swing or a baseball swing. Again, those are details. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. Now that David left, this won't work. All right, so what is the potential for open houses? To family reunion, I took a class from a guy named Chris Suarez, who has gotten a lot of business through open houses. And 2/3 of buyers and sellers hire the first agent they meet. The one I hadn't heard is the second one, that 80% of open house visitors do not have an agent when it comes to open house. I'm sorry?
Is that been your experience? Because that has not been
Close to that, I think. People will sometimes say they have on assuming they don't have an agent until they stop me, because if they really do have an agent, they will tell you.
Well, isn't that like, for, through a first stage of their search?
Mm-hmm.
They usually fill.
Right.
So, if they're looking for like 6 or 9 months, then they do.
Sometimes they don't. Because there are a lot of people, I run into a lot of people who say they've just been searching on their own for a long time. And that's when you need to tell them that on any given day, only 20 or 25% of the listings are open, and try to get them to sign up with you.
I met people at open house that I was viewing that I knew, and they said, I said, well, are you working with an agent? And they said, well, we were, but the contract expired. I was going to ask what kind of time people should put on those.
We generally suggest that people do for 6 months, and some people will balk at that. Sometimes you meet with somebody until they trust you, they might insist you do it for 1 day. And then once you prove yourself to them, then you can do 6 months or whatever period suits them. But the point of this is, if you multiply 2/3 of 80%, it's about 53%. That means more than half of open house visitors are going to hire the first agent they meet. Think about that. More than half will hire the first agent they meet. Now you can't control whether you're the first agent they meet, but you can be the best agent they meet, or at least better than average.
I've bought 2 houses so far in my life. Both times I bought them with an agent and that.
There you go. Okay. So what's a reasonable goal for yourself? This guy Chris Suarez said his goal is for every open like this, they don't want to give you the name, don't want to look you in the eye, they're very defensive. I had one lady come to an open house on Capitol Hill last week. I said, I'm Andy. She said, thank you. Basically saying, I don't want to talk to you. Okay, fine. So you get a decent turnout. You get 2 names to add. Whatever you want to do, but you've had a fantastic. On the market for a while, it's the second or third or fourth open house. You may not get very many people to turn out. And that's true. So there'll be times when you're sitting there thinking, what a stupid way to make a living. I'm sitting here bored to death because nobody's coming. It'll happen.
Yeah, I hope open house and nobody showed up.
Yeah, it doesn't work every time.
Yeah.
So the 2 open houses I did recently, some of you have heard this story. The one where I got the people under contract in 5 days, that was a few weeks ago. It was Will Gaskin's listing. It had been on the market for a while. Then he found out at the last minute, to do another open house, we'll get traffic from that. And I met this delightful couple and, signed them up. Last week I did an open house for the Walkers on Capitol Hill where I was just telling Rob, I had 40, 45 people through. I was database, but I'm not doing very well so far in getting responses from them because I was so overwhelmed I didn't really have time. No. Okay. So So if I get an email from somebody and I can tell it went to the whole office and I don't know that person, Leah, I have a new listing. Would you hold it open for me? That's the position you want to be in. Okay, so to prepare, I've done a bunch of open houses for Rob Thompson together. You really need to do that. I mean, show up at 12:30 for 1 o'clock open house. I mean, on a previous day, arrange to go through the house, ideally with the listing agent. Now, so I'm assuming we're talking generally about, in this class, about open houses that are not our own listings, because if it's your own listing, it's a little different. But go through the house and put yourself in the mindset of a buyer and ask questions. How come the wall sticks out that way? You know, isn't that kind of odd? Well, it's because do such and such. And how old is that? And what's that stain? And you know, when was this replaced? Because these questions will come up at your open house, and you need to be able to answer them. Now, you got to know what you're selling. This is on many different levels. I went to a broker's open recently that was on Lake Barcroft, right on the lake. The house had 150 feet of waterfront, had a dock, it came with a boat. The listing didn't have a single picture of the waterfront. And the listing online did dark corners of Lake Barcroft where there's really a crummy waterfront. And I told the agent, you need pictures of the dock. She said, oh, yeah, I guess I should. She didn't know what she was selling. I mean, what are you selling there? Waterfront living. So for each house, think about it. What are you selling? Sometimes it's fantastic architecture. Sometimes walk to Merrifield or, you know, walk to Andy Lax's house or whatever it might be. Figure out what's the selling point for that house. Okay, know what you're selling, part two. You need to know details of that house. That's why I said go through it first. So when people ask, you know, is it gas heat? Is it oil heat? What's the elementary school? You need to know all those things. At my Capitol Hill open house, I don't have kids, so I tend not to focus on schools as much as I should. And somebody said, what's the elementary school? I said, oh, I don't know. Let me check the listing sheet. It wasn't on there. He said, you should know that. I said, yes, sir, you're right. I should. I will find out as soon as I can. But I was embarrassed. Now, the third aspect of know what you're selling is harder. Sorry, go ahead.
You know, I've done some open houses, and some of the agents don't give details. And I've tried to give details, and I can't get details.
Those are bad agents.
Yeah, and I've just been like, you know, stuck with answers when, you know, I get questions, and I haven't been able to get details. So.
Now, you know, when somebody asks a question and you can blank stare. So if you're brand new, you don't know anything about houses, the best way really to learn about it from our perspective is home inspections. If you don't have any of your own, ask another agent if you can tag along on one of the home inspections because you'll learn a lot. Every time that, what's that guy's name? Nate Moore does a class here, you should come to one of his classes. You'll learn a little bit about home construction. Check out the classes at NVAR. They also have some good classes. There's a fantastic book that was written, I don't know, 30 years ago, something called House by a guy named Tracy Kidder. It's a great read because it's all about the drama that this family goes through when they're having a house built, but you'll also learn a lot about how. about guns. Thing. When I did that open house for Will Gaskins recently, the house had a laundry chute, which is a cool thing to have. It's not that common. And you had to open this cabinet door on the second floor to see it. So say hello to people, you're in the wherever, they wander through the house, they come back and say, did you see the laundry chute? Oh, you didn't? Oh, let me show you. The house on Capitol Hill had heated floors. You don't notice that. So I'd ask that to everybody. So if you find something that they won't know about, it gives you a good way to start a conversation. Not every house will have that, but try to find that. Okay, this tip is worth the price of admission right here, and you're all being charged, by the way, $10 as we speak, being deducted from your account. Here on the weekend and get the broker open flyers, the pieces of paper, because you won't have the email yet. Go through them and pay very close attention to the ones that are similar to the house you're holding open. Because when, oh, I like this house, but it's a little out of my price range, or I really need one more bedroom, you can say, oh, I know of one that's coming up. I'll be seeing it on Tuesday. Let me tell you about it. Give me your email address and your phone number, and I'll look at it on Tuesday and I'll tell you about it. And I really do not understand why more people here don't take brokers open seriously. For me, they're a cornerstone of my business. I'm there religiously every week. You know, I see 4 or 5 every Tuesday. And you don't have to make an appointment, you just show up. So you go to Brokers Opens. It's a fun way to keep up on what's out there. New houses are on the market. It's a great way to see houses. You meet fellow agents. And we have an instant way to bond with fellow agents because everybody knows Steve Gaskins. Everybody knows that Steve sold Adam and Eve their first cave, and they all love him and respect him. All you got to do is say, you get fed. You get fed. The best part, Brokers Opens houses that you're going to tell people about at your open on Sunday are not on the market yet because they have no other way of finding out about those. So when you say, hey, I know of a house that may meet your needs that's not on the market, you've suddenly gone from the average agent who's the necessary evil who opens the door at the open house to a better realtor. You're giving them secret inside information. That's how I got those people under contract in a week. They came to an open house on Sunday. That house had a first floor guest room. It was decent size. And the woman said, well, my parents will be moving in with me. And you know, that guest room is fine for someone staying a few days or a week, but it's not big enough for permanent residence. I said, you're right, it's not. And I said, wait a minute. Because I knew that Andy Musser has a listing in Lake Barcrop that has a separate apartment. I said, I got a house you might be interested in. It's not on the market. They were interested. I also saw another one at a Brokers Open on Tuesday. To buy this one I saw this afternoon at the Brokers Open. They fell in love with it. Only showed them 2 houses and they bought it. And it was because I had secret inside information. That's incredibly valuable. Okay, let's talk about this is an average directional sign. Okay? This is a below average sign. So Bonnie the buyer wrong. She sees this sign. What does she know? She knows there's an open house down here from 1 to 4. That's it. She sees this sign. What does she know? She knows there's an open house Sunday from 1 to 4, so she can call if she's lost or running late. She knows I'm part of the best real estate company on the planet. And she knows that I'm incredibly good looking, so she introduced me to her hot friend Gretchen. So it's better for me getting my name and face out there. It's better for the buyer. And it's
Do you have to have the office phone number on? I see it.
yes.
Yes.
Andy? Actually, I want to use Ann Petrie's picture, but that's a different story. And occasionally there I get all my signs. Glad you brought that up. There's a place called Catchy Signs in the Williston Center. You know, that's that shopping center that straddles Patrick Henry Drive at Route 50. One side has a Safeway and Target. The other side has a CVS. The guy who runs the sign job, Med Konadi, real nice guy. He's from Morocco. I can barely understand him on the phone, so I just show up when I need him or I email him. His shop is hard to find because, ironically, the shopping center won't let him put up a sign. But if you're looking at the CVS, if you're looking at the building that has a CVS, he's all the way to the left, on the left end.
Wait, this is Route 50 and what?
Patrick Henry. Isn't that Patrick Henry?
Okay, so where the Home Depot, where the.
Yeah, but Target and Safeway are?
It's like the last shopping center where it's a park, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fruit shop. Yeah.
So I'm sure you all get the emails I get, you know, that says Keller Williams approved vendor. He's always cheaper than that. And he's actually made signs like riders. He's made these for me while I stand there and wait. He's a real nice guy. He does signs for a lot of people in the office. His Catchy Signs. ATCHY is the company. The guy who runs it, his name is Med. Sorry if you don't like it. That's his name.
No, it's not. I don't like it because I don't think so. That's a name.
That's what he calls himself. Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about signs. Remember, you know, around here we always say put up 8 or so signs. You may need that to draw people to your open house, but you'll be violating local laws when you do that. So if you go to this our site, they list all the sign ordinances, and you'll be violating them. I don't think those. Just not going to go into the details because each place is different, Arlington, Fairfax, et cetera. But if you do a good job with your directionals, you will be violating those.
Oh, okay.
In terms of place. Talked about the quality. That's right. That's what you want them to do is call you back. You know, George Clooney comes to a lot of my open houses. When people come, I want them to know which handsome devil is the realtor and which is just some actor hanging out. So, you know. A lot of forms. Make you look terrible. You look like a corpse, and nobody wants to do business with a cadaver. If you have dark skin, straight in a white shirt. And for men, women have an intuitive sense of what colors look good on them. Men, we're clueless. I was fortunate enough to date a woman who was a decorator. She actually cut out little colors for me and said, okay, those colors. And it sounds silly, but people who have their colors done and pay attention to them do better. So guys, think about that. Ask some woman you know to tell you. Greeting. What I used to do, I used to say to people, I'm Andy Stevens with Keller Williams. You know, Andy, and I wear the tag. As Arby said, by the end of the open house, they're saying Andy, Andy. That's all they need to remember. That's the beginning of a relationship, right? Getting the person's name and. Okay, signing in. I've tried all kinds of things. So, you know, you can do the book, house registry, then you have to struggle to read people's writing. And I'd like to find whoever compiled this sheet and slap them, because one of these questions is, would you like a free, in quotation marks, market analysis on your home? But that's basically telling people it's not really free. So what I do, I I bring my iPad, and I used to have people type on the iPad, and that didn't work very well because it would often switch to numbers from text, and people would get confused, and I have to come help them. So I bought a little keyboard for it. This works much better. So if you have a laptop you use for work most of the time, don't bring that because it could disappear. It could get knocked off the something. Just buy either a cheap little sub notebook or a tablet or something like that. Use that. But then I keep the book as a backup because occasionally she refused to put her name on the computer. She said, I don't mind signing a book, but I don't put my name in any computer database because I don't know where that will end up. So keep the book handy. Oh, and also you got to prime the pump. Whether you're doing it on a fill in the first line completely. So this is my friend Scott Wohl. I told him recently, I said, Scott, you know, you come to every one of my open houses. It just encourages other people to do the same. The problem is what we tend to do is as soon as people come in, you say, hi, how are you? Come on in. Please sign in. The owners like to know who's been here. That's the moment when they have the least trust in you because they've just walked in the door. You're total strangers. Ideally, you should be asking after they've been to the house and you've talked a while. Their first name, they won't give you much information. If you end up connecting with them, you end up having an in-depth conversation and you want to follow up and say, oh, did you leave me your information? And they say, oh, I only put down my first name. To you, that's a different style, different strategy. Eric seems to say you should really pester people to sign in. I figure if you really push them, they're going to make up a phone number and make up an email address. So I don't do that. Now, some people have talked about creating some sort of incentive. You know, everybody who leaves their email address and phone number is entered in a drawing for something. I haven't done that, but I think it's worth considering. Have you've done that, Andy, and had good success? What did you? Do we have? Is anybody watching at home? Do we know? Andy, you want to say that again louder? Sorry.
Sheet here, and I'll say, you know, please fill out the. Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I asked them then to fill out their name, and there will be a drawing at the end for a $25 Starbucks gift card, and I have that in that sleeve so that they can actually see it.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. That's a great idea. Okay, so your basic goal, I think, is to get them to linger. If I could put fly paper on the floor of the kitchen that was strong enough to keep human beings there, I would. So I've tried different things. I got the idea from Leslie Hutchison of having snacks. So I got a basket and I put little packages of potato chips and Oreos and protein bars and all that. Here's what I found happen. The little kids would grab them and the parents would be annoyed because they didn't want the kids eating this stuff. And then I'd end up eating all the snacks. And then I tried hiding them, and for the first time in my life, I was getting heavy. I was putting on weight. So I tried leaving them in the trunk of my car. At night, they would call to me from the driveway. You have no idea how loud a little packet of Oreos can be late at night when you're getting hungry. So I gave up on the snacks. One thing I do, sometimes I get one of those big boxes of York peppermint patties from Costco. That's more of an adult taste. Kids don't go for them, but adults love them. And the idea is it just gets people to linger and talk to you. You want to get them to stay. The kiss of death at the open house is the person who comes in, runs through the house, and runs out. You want to get them to stay and talk to you. Do anything you can. So in hot weather, I always have a cooler with little bottles of water. I also do a map. For some of you have probably never seen one of these. This is a map, also known as a paper-based navigation system. And if you wonder, when you put a listing on MLS as a place where it asks you for a map grid, I don't know why they still have it on there, because they don't make these anymore. But this is what they're talking about. Every realtor used to have these in their car, and we all knew maps 15 and 16 were Falls Church, 16 and 17, Lax is nodding, were Arlington. So I put this out, and I opened it to the page, wherever the house is, and I put a little post-it note, you are here. People love this. People love this, because if they don't know the area, you can instantly see what's nearby, the roads, the parks, etc. So you probably can't find one of these anymore, but you can find something similar online and print it. When you go to Kristen Mason Correas' open houses, and she's fantastic at them, she'll have something like this on a stand. She has all kinds of information about the neighborhood, because she focuses on her neighborhood and she knows it extremely well. But even if you don't know the neighborhood, something like this helps. And it'll help you too. When people ask, hey, where's the, you can find it.
Can I use the mic? So I do a lot of open houses around my neighborhood, and I know it very well because I've been there for 20 years. But I put together a book, and I have the map, and I have commuting distances to like Fort Belvoir, to the Pentagon,
That's fantastic.
to the Metro, and I have a booklet from the neighborhood association, right? A link to the website, you know, the whole thing. So like I know it really well, and people can just, I have this binder they can flip through, and I'm like, oh, do you know the neighborhood well? No, we don't. Let me tell you a little bit about it. You know, whether it's this house or another one, right? About 100% of the time. What's your neighborhood? Sleepy Hollow Woods. So it's Sleepy Hollow and Barcroft, the whole area. So I have a lot of stuff.
Anything like that.
I live out in the hinterlands, out in Loudoun County, but there's a rest area off of 66 heading towards Manassas, and it's amazing how much local information you can get when you go into those places. They've got all kinds of brochures you can pick up, and those are also good to have available if you're in those kinds of areas.
Welcome to Virginia Rest Area.
I think they have an office at Tyson's too, Tyson Square Mall, where they have visitors
Right in front of Mason Street. Yeah.
Those are good too.
in front of Nordstrom.
Anything like that, that it has two purposes. It provides information to the visitors and gets them to linger up. Anything you can do to get them to linger up. I mean, what are you trying to do? You're trying to establish a relationship. It's a three-legged stool, right? If you want to develop a relationship with these people, they need to trust you. That is, to know that you have their best interests at heart, that you're doing what an agent is supposed to do in putting their interests before yours, and that you're not going to cheat them. They need to respect you, which means they need to think that you know what you're doing, you know what's going on in the market, and they need to like you. Now, the last of those is probably the least important. You know, they may not think, oh, they may think you're a cold fish. I don't want to have a beer with this person or invite them to dinner, but I trust them and respect them. And that will carry you through a transaction because they need you. But if you want it to be a lasting relationship where they're going to send you referrals years down the road, they need to like you as well. All my recent clients have invited me for dinner at their homes, and they hug me. The men and the women, they hug me. And I love it. That's the way. I love doing business that way. Okay, so now what? You know, people are there. We talked a little bit about this. You got to remember, they didn't come to see you, right? As incredibly good looking as I am, they didn't come to see me. They came to see the house. So don't follow them around. I hate when agents follow me around and say, this is the kitchen and this is the family room. They can see it, you know? I don't need you to buy this thing, whatever it is they're selling, so they can get it. Admit the flaws in the house. If there's an issue with the house, don't cover it up. Don't sugarcoat it. Years ago, before I became an agent, I looked at a house where there was something really weird about the bathroom layout. Usually, let's say you're ducking in for a second, you can open the door, look in the mirror, you know, see if there's spinach in your teeth or whatever. This one, you had to pass the door, and it was really awkward. And I made some comment to the agent, who was supposed to be my agent, and she said, well, how much room do you need? You know, if somebody tells you the master bedroom is too small, it's too small. It doesn't matter that you think it matters that they think it's small. But it's an opportunity for a question. If they say the master bedroom is too small, you say, oh, do you have a king-size bed? Do you keep exercise equipment in your bedroom? Just Ask a question, get more details, get a conversation going. And if there's a problem, like the house with the awkward bathroom layout, a smart agent would say, oh, maybe you could reverse the door, have it swing out instead of in. Try to offer a solution. This phrase, you have to be ready, willing, this is not the house for you. Because some ground floor, not the house for you, let me find you something. These statements will win you instant credibility. Through this without some legal reference. That you see on TV in the court, they take place long before that, arguing over what evidence will be admitted. That means evidence will be considered by the judge or jury. The federal rules of evidence are very long and very complicated, but there's special treatment for what are called statements against interest. So you know that Eric used to sell Maseratis, right? A statement against interest is when the Maserati salesman tells you Maseratis are not very good at X. If that's what's important to you, you should go buy a different. Statements like that win you instant credibility with the buyers. So house or something better. It wins you instant credibility and affection. But don't go too far. You don't want to disparage the house because neighbors will come. And neighbors may talk to the seller. So just be careful of that dual role. Don't go too far. All right, so we talked about that. Ask a lot of questions. You got to get them talking, right? Like I said, you want to get them to linger. You want to have a conversation, and then shut up and listen. And then, after you do that, shut up and listen some more. Everybody knows why you have 2 ears. But I know so many agents who have severe oral diarrhea. And I think their strategy is to figure if they keep talking, eventually people will say, please stop, I'll pay the $500,000. Got to try to find out not only the things they want, but things they don't want. And you have to go beyond 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, right? I mean, a trained monkey could find them 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. A Redfin agent could do that. If they tell you something they hate, that's a gold nugget. And when you're following up, we'll get to it. My follow-up method is a little different than Kristen's. She's big on the buyer consultation. I tend to go right to sending people listings. I had one couple tell me they wanted a house. A, they hate having the garage dominate the front of the house. They don't like that look. And B, they want to be able to sit at the breakfast table, right out back and watch their daughter playing. So those are 2 things that are not. So when I have people like that, I set up an automatic search. I have the results sent to me, not to the client. And then I go through the pictures. And then I just very selectively send the ones that meet their needs to the buyers. So that particular couple, I asked them what made them choose me. And the guy said, because when you followed up with us, you didn't overwhelm us with listings. You sent us a few things that actually met what we're looking for. So pay attention to those negative factors. And remember, negative emotions can be very strong. In every election, people say, why is there so much negative advertising? It's because it works, right? We saw this especially in the last election. I don't know anybody who was voting for which or against Bozo. You know, nobody was voting for either one of them. So again, how alternatives to suggest, we talked about that. Okay. This will probably get me in trouble. Probably the last class I'll ever teach you. Beware of scripts. And let me tell you why. What do car salesmen all say? What would it take to put you in this car today, right? Don't you get sick of that line? One of the most fascinating things I ever saw on TV was a show where they showed auditions of people, sitcom actors who became famous. My sister happens to be an agent in Atlanta. Well, I'll explain more. Remember, open house visitors will be virgins. They may have gone to 3 or 4 or 5 open houses before yours. And since we have more agents than anyone else, they may well have seen 3 or 4 or 5 Keller Williams agents. So if you all say exactly the same thing, they have no basis, no reason to choose you over the other ones unless they like the color of your eyes or something. And if you all say exactly the same thing, what does that make you? By definition, it makes you an average agent. And we all said we all want to be above average, right? We all want to be better realtors. So look at the scripts, figure out what is the point of the script. Piece of paper. That's the kiss of death. Okay? Okay, follow up. This is the key part. If you notice on his office door, he's got all these signs that say cornbread. So I told him that's his new nickname. He was okay with that. And if you think that's too disrespectful, you could call him Captain Cornbread. I think he'll go along with that too. But anyway, he does a great. I'm also not insistent that people come into the office. The last buyer consultation I did, they were first-time buyers, really needed to go through all that. I went to their home in Silver Spring because they had a 3-year-old with a fever, they had a 1-year-old, she's pregnant again, and I knew it would be an ordeal for them to come here. Also, I had not met the wife before, I'd only met the husband, so I did a buyer consultation holding the baby in my arms. I thought, what better way to bond with mom than to bond with her baby? And then we went to see a house in Silver Spring right after that. So, you know, you have to figure out what is your strategy. I tend to gravitate towards, because to me it just seems natural. You're at the open house, you're saying, well, what are you looking for? What kind of house are you looking for? Oh, you want that? Okay, let me send you some things. Let me find something for you. So I just go from there to sending them listings. Or by sending listings. Now, that is not public. Remember, we don't have a monopoly on information anymore, right? They can search on Zillow, on Redfin, on Trulia, and those things are a little bit inaccurate. They're not completely up to date, but still they can search on their own. If you know something that is not on there, that's golden. That is really golden. All right, again, don't send them a zillion listings. Try to narrow down, you know, the house that meets the style that they want, and ask them lots of questions. If you haven't gotten it, sometimes at the open house they won't tell you that much. They'll just say, well, we want 4 bedrooms in this school district. It may take a while. You send them some, you call, say, hey, what'd you think of those? Well, I really would like to have an old-fashioned porch in front. Okay, that gives you something to look for, something specific. But if they told you, I hate houses where the front door opens into the living room, or I hate houses where the garage sticks out beyond the front door, and you send them those, they're going to write you off as an idiot who didn't listen. So you have to demonstrate that you listened. Okay. We're actually going to be done in time. Conclusion. When we announced this class the first time, I had on the flyers this phrase, a $90,000 afternoon. Somehow it got dropped the second time. But nobody asked me about it. What do I mean by that? I did an open house where this very nice couple came. They've hired me now to sell their house in Vienna, which will go for about $1 million, maybe 1.1, and to buy them a house in McLean, which will go for about $2 million. So the gross commission on those 2 deals will be $90,000. I'd call that a pretty good return on an afternoon's work. And if I did that, all of you can do that. So thanks for coming. I hope you got something. Anyway. Sure. I don't know how much, you know, I did this mainly so I could back there, remember what I wanted to say, but I'll email it to everybody. That's a good question. You know, Steve he keeps telling people that you have a buyer broker agreement signed when you show them the house. NBAR sent a letter out to everybody a year or two ago saying that's not true. You don't have to. Should you? Yes. Yes, it's a good idea. I sometimes do that when I'm showing them a house. Before we go in or while we're there, I'll explain the basics of the agency relationship and say, look, the seller is paying the commission, so legally I'm obligated to represent their interest unless you sign this, which says, I'll say this is 3 pages of legalese to say I represent you. And if they're not comfortable, you make it for 1 day. You try to do it for 6 months, but sometimes you got to do it for a shorter time until you win them over. There was another client I met at an open house, and she actually told me at the open house that she thought she was better off without an agent because her boyfriend. I said, so he does this every day for a living? Well, no, but he's a really good negotiator. Okay. So the first time I showed her a house, she only wanted to make the buyer broker agreement for 1 day. I said, I thought you would like this house because it has the family room that's hidden in the back the way you said you like it, so you can have a mess there. It's not visible from the living room and dining room when you have guests over. And she looked at me, and she was astonished. I could see it in her face. She said, you listened. I said, yeah, I listened. That's when I had her. Then she signed a longer-term agreement. Other questions? No, I think we did 6 months at that point.
So you might show them the house, show them the first listing they're interested in, and then at that point have them sign, not like before we walk in.
Ideally, you should do it before they walk in, but that's awkward. You know, you may be standing outside. There's no place to put the piece of paper down. It may be raining. So go in, put it down in the kitchen. You know, just have them sign it before you leave. Well, you start doing that at the open house. Ideally, they linger a little bit. You talk at the open house, then you send them some listings, and then we talk on the phone. And then I try as soon as possible to go show them a house. And that's where you connect more because you're face to face in person, and you don't have 16 other people around you. It's just you and the buyers. And then you get a real sense of what they like when you look at a house with them. So yeah, so to answer the question, when do I build rapport? It's usually the first time we look at a house together.
Open, I noticed on agency Saturday, Sunday, I mean, what?
Well, traditionally around here we do Saturday and Sunday afternoons. You know, some people do 1 to 4, some people do 2 to 4. My personal experience, I find 1 to 4 a little bit draining. You know, I bring water, I bring snack bars, but still I feel drained at the end. 2 to 4 is a piece of cake. That extra hour makes a big difference.
Some people may know you open houses.
So think about other times. In urban line or something, he also said if it's an area near a school where parents can drop it off and pick up the kids, do an open house during that time. Figure out what time they pick up the kids and do them then. I haven't tried that, but it's worth thinking about. I usually put them up sign ordinances. Some places it'll say, like I think Fairfax County, yeah, something like that. So they all have some time limit. So if you put them up too early, they may get taken down. Some will get taken down anyway. So people will take your signs.
Random people, not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the sign police, but just random people. And I don't know why, because who else is going to use this sign? What are they going to do with it?
Well, the kids, they want to play with it.
When I did that,
2 weeks ago, I mean, I put a sign in like a big traffic light, and then when I went back to get it, it's not there.
right. Yeah, when I did this open house in Falls Church recently, I put up 5 of these signs and 2 disappeared. That was really annoying, but I got a $900,000 purchase out of it, so I guess it was worthwhile. I'm sorry? No, in that case, did I put them up Friday or Saturday? I think I put them up Friday afternoon. That's a good question. I think they were still there when I started the open, but when I went back to get them, they were gone.
Do you ever do this open house at the same house Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, yes.
When do you recommend that over Sunday?
If it's my listing, I'll do both days. Because I want to meet more people and get more clients and get maximum exposure for my client's house. And it's the first weekend on the market, I'll definitely do both days. Yes. Yeah, even though I said it's draining for me, I figure I want maximum exposure. Maximum exposure for my seller's house and maximum exposure of me to potential buyers. So I'll do 1 to 4 both days. I do. I got a whole bunch of different writers. Yeah. Yeah, these I got from Med, the sign maker. These are that corrugated plastic, so you poke the wire through them. So these I got a whole bunch of them. These are cheaper and lighter weight than the ones at NVAR, which are designed to go on top of your post or hang from your big sign.
You can get those too that stick in.
And by the way, for some reason, when you go to the NVAR store, these heavy-duty stakes, they do not have out. You have to ask for them. They have them in back. They have the flimsy ones out. These are much sturdier. They hold up much better.
So you bought the stakes at NVAR?
Yes.
Oh, and you get the signs.
Yeah.
The signs don't come with the stakes. No, they don't.
I think Med gave me stakes with the signs, but they weren't as sturdy as these. They're the kind where if you step on it here, it bends. And then I also had some of these, and these I found they tend to break. The weld breaks up here. Yeah. You got to ask the person at the store. I don't remember. These are the remnants of those flimsy stakes I was talking about. I cut them up with bolt cutters, and that's what I use to hold these in place. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Hope you got something out of it. Just says open house? Well, yeah, you're supposed to have your phone number and the office phone number, which is a lot of stuff to put on a little sign, but that's what we're supposed to do.
City of Alexandria is very ruthless about roofing signs. If you're doing it open
What are the
in the city of
weekends?
Alexandria,
Nobody's gonna like
if you put them up Friday night, you risk losing all of your signs. If you
Where?
put it up Saturday morning. The city of Alexandria,
That's
not
in
Fairfax County.
Oh, yeah, City of
the city.
Alexandria, they are like.
Because they passed an ordinance about political signs all over the right of ways, and they worded it just so it's all signs.
Same thing, if you park your car for like 5 minutes, you think it's like, you're gonna go in and
Oh, yeah,
go out
I've
for like,
gotten
and then be there and the ticket is there, like,
Yep.
in 5 minutes.
Yep.
I work there and it's. Oh, thanks again.
It wasn't really rainy. So it's really funny that the agents said, take your shoes off to come into this house. And the agent, one of them was standing there with like spikes on, and the other guy had his
his shoes on. And I'm walking through with random, it's just people. They don't know I'm an agent. This guy was muttering, like, they make us take our shoes off. They don't take their shoes off. And can't they clean up if we're going to buy a $850,000 house? I mean, it was just really interesting. I thought, okay, at my open, I'm not going to make people take their shoes off.
Well, you know what I was thinking too is like to buy a pair of shoes that are slipper-like to change into and just say, I'm not wearing my shoes, I'm wearing these slippers, that don't look like big puffy slippers.
But I saw another agent that had taken her shoes off and she was standing there, her socks, and they're her open house. And, it was different. It was interesting.
I mean, I feel the same way. If you're gonna ask your clients to take your shoes off, you should have your shoes off.
Well, but if you've come in before the rain starts and you haven't gone outside, if it's a matter of tracking water or mud in the house, it'd be different. But I understand people can. You can wear the booties, I have.
Also, if it's a light colored carpet, then people are like, look, we just cleaned the carpet, we don't want you tracking
I
anything.
understand if there's carpet, but when it's hardwood, do you really need to have people take if the owners, unless the owners.
If it's a really
says.
lousy day outside, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Or if they just.
I did
Why don't you just get one of those little things at VAR? It has a little basket that says, please remove shoes or cover them. It has those little things you put over your shoes.
Over the shoes,
Those little white things.
I did that.
I don't seem to mind.
I was showing a house to my clients last night, and they had that little basket there. Me and the wife just slipped our shoes off. The husband put the booties on because he didn't want to unlace.
Yeah.
Right.
People will come into a house and automatically.
They will. Some people will, but I just feel like.
I guess Sunday when it was raining and half the people took their shoes off, even though I said you don't have to.
Right. So I guess I wouldn't if somebody didn't take their shoes off. I'll tell them to take. They're never gonna like you.
Yeah, but it just depends, like if it's freshly clean white carpet.
Well, if it's carpet.
Or if they just had the floors refinished, or if the cellar is just really particular.
Yeah.
Or it's a yucky, muddy day.
So you just paid $100 to have somebody come in and clean the house, you know?
What is do you just do what the owners tell you to do, or do you always have them I just wonder what your.
If it's raining, I put the little basket out that says, shoe covers.
Okay, but if it's not raining.
No.
Only if it's, okay, that's a good, because people understand when it's raining.
Yeah.
It's not like forcing anything.
I thought that was.